Hi, World History. This is Miss Corey. Welcome to Unit 1, Lesson 6, Bronze Age, Babylonia, Anatolia, and Assyria. All right, so we got some more learning targets today. Don't worry, they look kind of daunting. They're not. So identify and examine dominant and non-dominant narratives about the development of cities, societies, empires in Asia, the Americas, and Africa. So today we're going to specifically talk about more the Asia-Africa side. Then we're going to interpret surviving evidence about early human history and discern what we can and cannot know about early humans from these sources. Explain the interrelationship between the emergence of domestication and agriculture and the development of complex societies and the environment and climate. And then finally, create an argument about the emergence and characteristics of complex societies, the development of new technologies, and the impact of human society on the environment. So, kind of continuation of some of the stuff that we were talking about in previous lessons. So your job today, you're going to watch this Ed puzzle, answer the questions. Any question that is in blue text is going to be a question I want you to answer directly on the Ed puzzle. And of course, if you have any questions, please let us know. We are here to help you. So first, let's talk about the Stone Age. We kind of skipped over that the last time. So the Stone Age is unique because it has two parts. So the first part of the Stone Age is the Paleolithic, and the second part is the Neolithic. So, Paleolithic age literally translates to Old Stone Age because paleo means old and lithic means stone. So, the Paleolithic age lasted from roughly 2.5 million BCE all the way to 8,000 BCE. During this time period, there was the invention of tools, mastery over fire, and the development of language. Then we had the Neolithic Age, which means New Stone Age. So that lasted from about 8,000 BCE to about 3,000 BCE. During this time, people learned to polish stone tools, make pottery, like you see down here, grow crops, and also raise livestock. So a lot of that domestication that we talked about last time. All right, so like I said before, with the Stone Age, there's two parts. We have the Paleolithic and the Neolithic. But what happened after that? So after that was the Bronze Age. So that started about 3000 BCE and lasted about 1000 BCE. So it's good to know that it wasn't like all of a sudden everyone in 3000 BCE went to bed and they woke up the next day and they're like, it's the Bronze Age. So the Bronze Age developed in different locations, and then those knowledge of how to do bronze tools and smelt bronze would then spread across the globe. So it wasn't like one day it ended and it began the next. It was over time. So the Bronze Age really started in Middle East, China, and Greece, again from about 3000 to 1000 BCE. To put that in perspective, so England started with bronze about 1900 BCE, so they're kind of behind the times compared to the Middle East. I like this map here. This is a really great map. It shows when bronze technology spread about. So in the darker blue here, you can see that it focuses a lot on the Middle East, and then it will slowly creep its way up into Europe and other parts of Asia. So these civilizations would have furnaces, tools, and materials to create the bronze. So this is a replica of what an old kind of like blast furnace would look like for smelting bronze. So where is bronze mined / found in the world? Again, I'm not grading you on right or wrong. Just take your best educated guess. So bronze is actually not just found in the world. It is a combination between two metals, the first being tin, the second being copper. So ancient tin was usually in the Zagros Mountains, which would be found in the Middle East, as well as Southeast China and other parts of Asia. And then ancient copper, the largest of the deposits would be in Egypt, and there would be other smaller mines around the Middle East as well as China as well. So, why would someone want to use bronze instead of stone? I mean, it sounds kind of like a pain in the butt to make bronze, where stone, well, you can just find it on the ground. So, bronze is sharper. It was better for farming tools, cutting tools, and of course, weapons. All right, so here's another question. What happens if you have copper and tin? What other material do you need to melt them to make bronze? Yeah, you need wood. You need some kind of fuel in order to start that big fire to melt those metals down. But uh-oh, there's a problem. You're in ancient Israel, and there's like no trees around ancient Israel. So where are you going to get the wood? Trading, of course, specifically trading to places like Babylonia and Anatolia. So let's talk about that next. So here is Babylonia, by the way, right here in kind of like the dark pink color. We'll also talk about Assyria today a little bit in the city of Assur. And then Anatolia is going to be right up here in what is modern day Turkey. All right, so I have to confess. Next, we're going to talk about the region of Babylonia, which is part of the Babylonian Empire. And I am not doing Babylonia any justice. Seriously, we could spend a whole semester, if not a whole year, if not a whole lifetime, just talking about the Babylonian Empire. So I'm just going to give you like the very rundown basic facts. Again, here is Babylonia, and then specifically here is the city of Babylon. So, Babylonia. It is a region of the Babylonian Empire, which lasted from about 1894 to 1595 BCE. It is located right between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, which we talked about last lesson. And the big city was, of course, Babylon. So, it had about 200,000 residents living in the city. So it was known for things like large markets, trade between Western Asia, Europe, and Africa. It also had very detailed jewelry. Here's an example right here from the city of Babylonia. Um, it had a walled city as well to protect it. It had irrigated cropland. It's also really famous because it is known for the famous story of epic of Gilgamesh, which I wish we could get to, but we just don't have time. It also has sewers, so any wastewater would not just sit in the streets; it would actually go out of the city, which is nice. What would be known as the Pythagorean theorem came from Babylonia, so you can thank them for your math troubles. And they created time division by 60 as well, just like we use today. So, right, we have 60 seconds in a minute and we have 60 minutes in an hour. That would be thanks to them. They're also a city that is mentioned in the New Testament as well as the Quran. So, we'll talk more about that when we get to religions. So, here is some kind of pictures of the city itself. So, this is an artist rendition of what the city probably looked like. It is also known to have these maybe mysterious gardens. So there would be these like hanging gardens. It's kind of legend. Archaeologists don't quite know if that was real or not. You would also have the Epic of Gilgamesh, which would be part of it is written here. And then here is what Gilgamesh would have looked like here. So you can see he's like just totally taking on a lion. All right, next we're going to talk about Anatolia. So Anatolia is pretty much what is modern day Turkey, right here on the Mediterranean and Black Sea. So this is where Asia and Europe meet. It is very famous because it had the city of Troy, which also turned into a movie, by the way. It had lots of metal and mineral deposits. It was also known for growing grapes, which means wine. They also invented the pottery wheel there. So if you are taking pottery in art class, you can thank Anatolia for that. And especially high quality pottery came out of this region. Also, they improved wheels for transportation, which means that if they had better wheels, that means they could trade more and farther away. All right, next we have the Assyrian Empire. So the Assyrian Empire is going to be kind of in this green color here, especially with the city of Assur. So the Assyrian Empire is located on the Tigris River, which means that they had boat transportation, right? Since they had a river there, so they could trade via river. It was also the meeting point of Anatolia and Babylonia, so they're kind of the middleman between those two great empires. So they would get metals from Anatolia, but then they would also get textiles. So textiles are things like clothes, materials, pottery from Babylon. And they would also get tin from Iran, which we talked about is very important for bronze making. They're also known for their large donkey caravans. So, a caravan is a group of merchants transporting goods on backs of animals. Men would then lead these caravans across the terrain, trading all over the Middle East. So here's another question. If men were off with the caravans trading, who ran the trade businesses back in the city of Assur? Hmm. That's right, the women did. The women actually would run the businesses, especially the caravan businesses, back in the city of Assur. Because men could be off in Anatolia for months, if not years. And how do historians know that? How do they know that women ran these businesses? So there have been many houses that were buried in dirt that have things called cuneiform tablets with letters written on them from women to their husbands or other women about trade deals and stuff that is happening in the city. Here's an example of one of those cuneiform tablets right here. So you're probably like, wait a minute, what is a cuneiform tablet? I think you've mentioned it a few times. Yeah, so they're super important to ancient history. They're the oldest known written language was from a cuneiform tablet, which dates back to about 2400 BCE. The cuneiform symbols are like an alphabet, and they were used for multiple ancient languages. So, kind of like how English and Spanish and German have roughly about the same letters, but they're totally different languages, right? Same thing with cuneiform symbols. So, right here would be their letters, and they all mean different things. But of course, depending on where you are and what language they're speaking, it would be different words. And cuneiform tablets come in all shapes and sizes, so they can be big as pretty much like a kitchen table, or they can be so small that they could fit in the palm of your hand. So they're typically clay tablets used to write messages on. So during this time period, papyrus paper was around, but was very labor intensive, and papyrus trees don't grow everywhere. They usually grow mostly around the Nile region, so it wasn't very accessible. So, what people would do with cuneiform tablets is they would take soft, wetted clay and then a stylus, which is kind of like a pencil. And then they would go and they would write in what they want to do or what they want to tell someone in the wetted clay. That clay would then dry, it hardens, and then it can last for thousands of years because, well, today archaeologists are still digging them up. All right, let's wrap this up. Today, we learn about the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, Babylonia, Anatolia, Assyria Empire / the city of Assur, and cuneiform tablets. Next up, you're going to do U1-L7, main characteristics of a civilization, U1-L8, directions for the Unit 1 summative, and then you're going to do the Unit 1 summative. If you have any questions, comments, or want to learn more, please let us know. We're more than happy to help. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.